This is a bead head teeny nymph, and I've kind of dressed this fly for bluegill. I like to hang it with a 10 to 12 inch tippet section off of a grasshopper or any topwater bug. That way this will flail around underwater when I strip the grasshopper on top. To start the fly, mesh the barb on a U202 size 14 hook. This is the scud style hook. Then thread a 3/32 of an inch gold bead, small hole first, through the point of the hook and bring it to the hook eye. Then get the bead and hook arrangement firmly set in the jaws of your vise. Then load a bobbin with 12/0 black veevus thread, or just any thread, any small black thread. Start your thread right behind the bead and wrap down before cutting your tag end off. Then create a nice thread base, kind of slightly below where the barb would be, and then back up to the bead. Now go to some small gold wire. A 6 to 10 inch length is a good size and will make a couple flies. Start it on top of the hook right behind the bead, and then take wraps of thread all the way up and kind of bring the wire either still on top or a little bit to your side, all the way down to where our thread ends. At this point, make a nice thread base that kind of tapers up towards the hook eye, kind of thickening as you go. Kind of like you would tie a zebra midge. This just kind of helps lock the bead in place and doesn't allow it to move as much. Now go to some pheasant tail. And kind of separate a good clump that's in between 15 to 20 fibers. And kind of strip them free from the quill. Kind of fold them, and if they're all kind of uneven, maybe make a few minor adjustments to even out the tips. Now transfer the tips to your offhand, if it helps, and kind of measure a wing that's about 1 to 1.5 times the hook shank in length, and then tie that with the tips extending past the hook eye and the bead, and then wrap down all the way to where your thread ends right by the wire. Keep your thread, right at the end. Then if it helps, invert your vise and start taking the butt ends of the pheasant tail and wrapping them all the way up to the bead and touching wraps. Once you get to the bead, kind of start taking wraps around the butts to secure them. This part can be a little tricky, as if you're using small pheasant tail fibers, you kind of run out of room, and you just kind of you have to kind of finagle it with your fingers. Make sure not to trap any of the tips that you tied in earlier. If you trap any of the butt ends and make them face forward, just go ahead and cut it off. Then cut the rest off right now, once you got them secure. Take a couple more thread wraps and then grab the wire. Using counter wraps, wrap about 5 to 6 times up through the body towards the bead. Once you reach the bead, go ahead and take wraps of thread over the wire to secure it. And maybe a couple wraps in front of it before helicoptering it off. Then fold the wing of the tips back and take a couple wraps over them to push them back, extending towards the bend of the hook. Now go to some bighorn orange colored sow scud dubbing. Now get a small clump of it and kind of spread it out with your fingertips. Then make a small dubbing loop, 1 to 2 inches, on your thread. Push the dubbing up towards the fly and take a couple wraps to cover any bare thread or any shown out to make a nice orange collar. Then transfer your thread in front of that little orange dubbed collar behind the bead and do 4 to 5 turn whip finish. Go ahead and tighten the knot and then cut the thread off. And that's it. That's the fly. Time to go fishing.